besides the money part, though, I'm trying to think, like, I always seem to gravitate towards people that had problems in their families too. You know, like, even though I could hang out with those people, when it came to like a serious, like getting into a relationship with somebody, if they had like the cookie cutter, leave it to beaver family, I just felt like, oh, I'm not good enough. They're going to eventually find out I can't fit into this, you know?
Well, I would argue, here's my Christmas present to you. I would argue that you didn't believe any of that stuff, but you had to, like we all had to. You just conformed to what your parents wanted. So your parents wanted they wanted a boyfriend for you that was going to be rich but screwed up. Because a rich and healthy person is going to say, "Oh, like you're great. I'm sorry that you have the family you have, but they're nuts. Like this is toxic. This is not good for you."
Well, I didn't have family really giving me any input, but except for to make fun of me, to make fun of
Yeah, you're
me.
being
Yeah.
defensive. What did you just tell me about what your parents said?
Well, my sisters mostly, but yeah. Well, see, I'm trying to, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Um, they didn't give me any advice or any input on who to date, but if I was hanging out with, like, if some guy pulled up in a brand new truck or something, they would have something to say about it, as in, oh, you think you're better than us now? Or, oh, you're hanging out with those Richie Riches,
Yeah,
you know?
because if you end up hanging out with more functional people, at some point you're going to really get how screwed up your parents are, right? We
Right,
can understand that, right?
right.
So they're a threat to the functional people or wealthy people or people who are better off, people who are more healthy are a threat to your parents because they need you to be around dysfunctional people so that their weirdness doesn't get denormalized.
Yes, yes, and they don't feel bad for not doing better. It was like a slap in the face to my dad to see, kid my age pull up in a nice vehicle and take me somewhere nice.
Right, because we think as a kid that we think this and we think that. None of it's true at all. We don't think anything as a kid. All we do is conform to what allows us to survive, which means doing whatever our parents tell us we need to do. So I don't like, and the reason I'm saying this is you said, well, I didn't feel worthy and I didn't feel this. It's like, you didn't have any thoughts going on in your head because all children do is conform to survive. That's all we do. So you didn't have any independent thoughts about your value or their value. All you had to do was probe what your parents approved of or disapproved of and do that because that's what all children do. It's rare to have a thought of your own before the age of 20.
Okay.
So when you say, well, because we personalize it and we say, well, I mean, if my parents locked me in a little cage and I stayed there for 10 years, would I say, well, I spent 10 years being agoraphobic. I mean, I just paced around in a little tiny room. I don't know why I didn't leave. It's because I was locked in. So,
Right.
so you didn't evaluate yourself as a child according to any independent standard or metric. What you did was you say, oh, my parents don't approve of that. Well, I guess I better internalize that, or they might stop feeding and protecting me, and then I'll die. Children are
Right.
just little mirrors of what their parents want. And so, because you didn't say, well, my parents got really mad when I was around someone functional, so I tried to avoid them to appease my parents. You said, well, I didn't feel worthy. And this just is not true at all. So I'm not saying you're lying, but it's not true epistemologically. Like it's not true that you just didn't feel worthy for some mysterious reason. It's like, well, no, my parents disapprove and I need my parents to survive. So I've got to internalize and do what they want.
Well, that's helpful because I've always beat myself up about it. I'm like, why was I so dumb? Why didn't I see my worth? Why didn't I go for somebody that had more going on? Why did
Right.
I
Because that's the
choose
price
so?
of survival. The price of survival is you do what your screwed up parents want and you internalize it because you can't say, well, my parents are screwed up, but I have to be around dysfunctional people because we don't function that way as kids. We just, oh, okay, this is what my parents say. I'll just internalize that. And this is my gift to you and to everyone who's listening to this is don't beat yourself up for surviving, my sister. That's what you
Oh,
did. But don't say it's somehow, well, mysteriously, I just found myself uneasy around functional people. It's like, nope, that was the price of survival. I mean, if you grow up on a banana farm, you're going to eat a lot of bananas. I don't know.
right.
I had this weird taste for bananas when I was younger. It's like, no, that's pretty much 90% of what there was to eat. So I ate a lot of bananas and I'm not going to hold myself accountable for that. And so your parents would be highly uncomfortable around functional people because they have an instinct for control. And this is why classes tend to stay down there, right? Because a lot of kids internalize that and say, well, what they do is they say, well, I just feel weird around functional people and they're weird and it's all a facade and they're even more screwed up because they're pretending to be normal. And then they grow up with this sort of anti-bourgeois hatred of the leftists and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, you just did what you had to do to survive. So I had to conform to my mother's craziness when I was young. Not because I lacked judgment or wasn't skeptical or didn't think for myself. It's like, no, it's the price of survival is you have to do what your parents want, no matter how screwed up it is. You have to do it because you have to survive. And that's all of our instincts. All of the kids who are like, no, mom and dad are weird. I don't agree with them. I'm going to fight them tooth and nail. Well, how did they do genetically? Not very well in a time of great predation and scarcity and so on, right? I mean,
Right.
you couldn't afford to be sent to bed without supper in a time of great hunger, right? Because you had to have enough calories to fuel your immune system to stay alive if you got an infection. So the kids who didn't conform to whatever screwed up things their parents want just had a much lower chance of survival. So all of those of us who were left, we just almost perfectly internalize whatever our parents want. And I mean, I remember when my daughter was younger, I mean, I've obviously encouraged her independence and all of that. But when she was younger, I told the story a particular way, and I noticed that she told the story using almost exactly the same words. And it's not because I'm demanding that she, do it my way or say it my way or whatever it is, right? But she would just say the story, but almost exactly the same words. Now, of course, she's grown into more independence, thankfully, but there's nothing wrong with that. So that was just an example of like, this is a punishment-free household, and she was copy-pasting my wife and I. So that's just what kids do. And it's perfectly healthy. It's why you're here. It's a natural part of evolution. It's almost like, I just decided to start smelling one day as a teenage boy. I just, as a kid, I didn't smell. And then suddenly I decided to will hair into my armpits and start smelling. And it's like, no, that's just puberty. It's just what happens. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not unhealthy. It's perfectly healthy. And so, yeah, I mean, don't internalize it and think that you're somehow at fault for doing what you needed to do to survive. That's something we've all inherited, that impulse, those requirements.
Well, that's helpful because, like I said, I always would just look back on it and go, man, I was dumb. Man, I could have done better. Man, I could have chosen better. I could have,
No, and of course, remember, for most of human history, you couldn't change classes.
Right.
So you had to like the messed up boys with more resources because you couldn't go from, well, first of all, nobody was functional throughout human history, really. But you couldn't, if you're some poor serf, some peasant, some slave, some whatever, right? The odds of you making it into the upper classes was so tiny, unless you happen to be born like spectacularly beautiful and with great grace or some staggering talent, or even, I mean, my God, the greatest writer in human history, William Shakespeare, could only make it to the middle class. So you had almost no chance of changing classes. And so your genes are like, well, we don't care about anything other than reproduction, because that's what genes are. They're just copy, paste, just blind photocopiers. And so whatever raises your odds of reproduction. And so if you're told, oh, you think you're too good for us, what they're saying is they're not talking to you, they're talking to your genes, saying this attitude will cause you to be rejected for reproduction. Men will look at you as haughty, as superior, as annoying, and they won't marry you, and they won't protect you, and they won't give you the resources you need to raise your children. So you better get the hell back in line, young lady, so that you can carry the genes forward to 4 billion in 30 years, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's just what you need to do to survive. It's perfectly conditioned in your system through evolution, through culture, through survival, through Darwinianism, whatever you want to say. So it wasn't like, well, I should have done better. I could have done better. No, you had to keep your parents' approval, and you had to keep their protection, and you had to keep getting access to their resources, which means when they say jump, you say how high, and then you just do that. And that's exactly why you're here. And it's not something to be ashamed of. You can say, like, I played the game well, I made it to adulthood, because for a lot of us with really violent, dysfunctional families, making it to adulthood was far from certain. So
right.
Yeah,
and not on drugs.
Yeah. So good for you, right? I mean, like the stories I've heard over the years where people are like, yeah, my parents introduced me to marijuana when I was like 12 or 13, right? And I was so stupid. And it's like, Look, it's sad, and I'm sorry your parents did that, but it's not shocking that you did it, because if you just said, no, I'm not, marijuana is for losers, I mean, what would happen, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm so glad you're doing this on Christmas Day because, I used to be that person that didn't have the family to go to and was lonely. I could go pretend, but then at some point I decided to stop pretending that I had an actual functional family to go spend the holidays with. And it took a lot of growing, to get to that point. And it's better to spend it by yourself even than to go pretend with people that are just going to put you down and make you feel bad or make you, like I said, oh, you're better than us. You're trying to do better than we are and just make you feel bad about bettering yourself.
Well, and you can't go straight from breaking your legs to the gymnast team, right? So you have to have a time to recover, to recuperate. And so when you get out of a highly dysfunctional family situation, you can't just jump into where the functional people are because you're too jumpy and traumatized, or at least I was. So you need some time, some therapy, some calming down, some reorienting yourself. You need to heal before you can join the sort of elite athletes of functionality, so to speak. And so, yeah, that's sort of the desert that I'm talking about, where you get away from the dysfunctional, you get away from the dead, the repetitive, the soul-crushing people who, take a slow Parisian waitress-style pee from great height on any flickering embers of creativity, thought, and originality. And you got to get away from those people, but you can't immediately go to the village of functional people. You've got to cross that desert. You've got to heal. You've got to become yourself, and you've got to shake the echoes of all of that trauma before you can get into more relaxed relationships with functional people. So that's sort of one of the reasons I wanted to dip into X here today, to just sort of give my thoughts and comfort and sympathies for people who are having a more solitary Christmas, and it will pass. And you keep focusing on self-knowledge, you keep focusing on therapy, you keep focusing on being part of more functional communities, and you will look back and say, well, that was not fun, but oh my gosh, was it worth it?
Yes, yes. And it took me a little longer to get through that journey than some, but I'm so glad that I did.
No, I'm not hearing you put yourself down on Christmas, young lady. Don't do it.
I made it.
Don't compare. Oh, well, I took too long and I'm still somewhat deficient and other people did it better, but no.
Oh, I promise you I was stupider than most.
No, don't do it, because you know what happens when you, and I'm not saying you're like big seriously putting yourself down, but I wouldn't even do a whiff of it. So when you put yourself down, you're putting out markers for other people to come and treat you worse.
Oh, yes.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't cut your hand in the water and then be surprised when sharks come by.
Right.
Right. Don't put yourself down. Yeah. And be proud of it. Yeah. I came from a really dysfunctional background. I did really great stuff. I worked hard, and I'm doing well. And that's a huge amount to be proud of. But don't at the same time say, well, I did it more slowly than some people. And blah, blah. That's just an echo of the undertow, the underworld. It's still, there's these ghostly tentacles still trying to pull you back and down. Like, you have to appease the screwed up people by putting yourself down a little bit, because if you take too much pride, right? Because if you take too much pride around dysfunctional people, what happens?
They'll just try to put you down harder.
Yeah, they'll attack you. They take it as a personal insult, like you're losing control, that they're losing control over you. So stop appeasing these black-hearted goblins. Stop it. Just be proud of what you've done, and be self-correcting when necessary, as we all have to do. But don't keep putting out these appeasing things, because it is very evident that you still have the ghostly tentacles, like the end of the horror movie where somebody's walking away from the graveyard. Comes the hand. Right. So you're still appeasing the tentacles, and the sooner you stop doing that, even better, the relationships will show up in your life.
Okay, I will do that. But thank you. Thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for the great conversations that we've been having. And I will stop here because I have to start getting ready for my evening. And big hugs to everyone out there. I could give you all a virtual hug and a big kiss on the forehead if I could. I thank you, everyone, so much as we sail into our 21st year of the greatest philosophy show in the history of the world. And a lot of that's the listeners. A lot of that is the technology. A lot of that is me. And I really do thank you for this amazing opportunity. Have yourselves a lovely, lovely Christmas. And if you're alone, if you're lonely, if you're isolated, it will, I know it doesn't give you much comfort right now, but I guarantee you it will get better. and it will make the closer connections you have in the future all the sweeter. All right. Thanks, everyone. Love you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.